Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time of the day you're joining us today. We just wanted to make sure that we start off with a warm welcome. My name is Jimenez, and I am here as part of the Healing Generation Institute podcast, a podcast that is focused on lifting up culturally based healing values and traditions as a way of healing generations of trauma. Today, I'm here with my co-host, A.B. Ozuna, who is one of our young leaders, our young warriors, and who you all got an opportunity to get to know a little bit more in last month's episode. So I'm excited to embark on this journey with them. I'm excited to see where this journey takes us. And with that, I welcome AB and I pass the palabra over to you.
Hello, my name's A.B. Ozuna. I'm the co-host of this podcast with Ariel. And so we're just going to dive right on into it. We want to begin, as we've been taught by our elders, to begin by giving thanks for another day of life and all the blessings we have been given today, and acknowledging our relations and all our ancestors, including you all who are tuning in right now, and appreciating you for taking time to listen to us and sit down and hang out for a bit. Today, we want to welcome our guest, Xitlali Jimenez, who is from San Jose, California, and who works with the National Compadres Network. So we just want to start with a bit of conocimiento. So can you share a little bit about yourself, your family, your background, and your journey?
Thank you, AB. Hi, everyone. I'm Xitlali Jimenez Bustos. I'm daughter of Adriana Bustos Perez and Juan Gregorio Jimenez Vallejo, sister of Ariel Jimenez, Omar Jimenez, and Christopher Jimenez, and also partner to Jose Ariola. I am born and raised in San Jose, graduated from San Francisco State in 2017 with my BA in psychology and minor in human sexuality studies. I'm a big advocate for mental health and healing, especially after going through my own journey with trauma and my own healing. And as well as a graduate of Joven Noble, I started going through Joven Noble circles in 2012 when I started my own healing journey. And I've actually lost track of how many circles I've attended since. It's been so many, and they're a really big part of my life. I am currently working for the National Compadres Network, started off as a senior fellow, and now transitioning into my new position as a training and technical assistant specialist.
Thank you. I will say that we are excited to get an opportunity to hear about your healing journey. I know I've had a front row seat. So as Xitlali mentioned, I am the older brother, Ariel Jimenez, and I'm excited to just have this conversation with the person that I've seen grow, within their journey. So thank you for that. So diving right into healing, we're going to go ahead and just talk about what are some healing, some challenges, some obstacles that the current young people face today. So if you were to highlight maybe one or two things, what are some stressors or traumas that other young people are dealing with in today's generation?
I think a really big stressor is image. There's a really big importance on image, especially on social media, and wanting to, look your best, be the next TikTok star, be the next, influencer. And it's kind of setting this ideal image for youth and wanting to achieve that through their own social media. But also at the same time, it's a little hard because at the same time, they're going through so much, especially in the time of COVID right now. So especially feeling a lot of isolation at home. Parents are going through their own struggles right now, especially with losing their jobs, having to worry about how they're going to feed their families. And a lot of youth are, getting a little sense of neglect because their families are working so hard to try to provide for them that it can feel like, you're kind of on the back burner, especially with not going to school right now, not having your friends to see in person. It can be really frustrating to feel all of this and not be able to, let it out with your friends that you would see in school. And then on top of that, their grades, everything just is kind of falling apart right now. And somehow these youth are finding a way to keep it together through all of this. So I commend them for that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say the image one is a big one right now, just because like all these TikTok stars are becoming famous, and they set the idea of what the ideal body image would be, and like some of us are like, that's gonna be me, let me go exercise, and then we wake up in the morning like unable to get out of bed because of like where our mental state is and stuff. So it's definitely the constant fight of, I want this to be me, but I can't, like, I don't really have a healthy lifestyle right now in general. And yeah, I feel like you really touched base on a lot of the things that youth are going through today, because it's definitely a struggle during COVID-19 to want to be like, this is what's happening with me right now, but you're comparing your struggles with others. So like, I have a roof over my head, I have food on my table, I should be perfect, but in reality, you're still struggling like everybody else is. In your opinion, because I know you work with me and the girls and the Young Woman Warrior Project, how would you say COVID has affected the lives of young people?
So, COVID has really just broken a lot of stuff. I mean, youth have lost a lot of their support system through COVID, whether it's like losing their actual family members, losing their friends, teachers. I give credit to a lot of my teachers for supporting me throughout like my time in high school. And right now it's really hard for students to connect with their teachers. It's been a whole struggle being able to even get them online. And I saw some of that too. Before NCN, I was working at a middle school as an after school teacher right when the pandemic hit. So I did a few months of online teaching with them. And it was so hard to get them to come onto the screen because they were going through so much in their own home. Their last priority was to be able to sign on Zoom when they have so much going on. And it's hard, some days even finding the will to get up out of bed. And then this also eliminated like anything like extracurricular activities. A lot of students who love to do sports aren't able to do them right now, clubs, things like that. Like some schools are getting creative, but it's still missing that social interaction, being able to see someone face to face and building those connections with people you interact with. And I saw it in the middle school youth. I see it right now with the high school youth that I'm working with the Young Women's Warrior Project. And it's a blessing to be able to have them log on every week. And sometimes they aren't able to, and that's completely fine. But just giving them that space to be able to talk and, release a lot of what they're holding in throughout the week is really great. And I see it too, even I'm a little active with an organization at SFSU right now with my sorority. And they struggle to go to class. They struggle to put an effort into an organization, even though it's part of their responsibility. They are struggling to do a lot of these things because they're finding it hard to find a reason to do it. Like, what's the point? Why are we doing this? Are things even going to open up soon? Like, how is this helping us at this point? And at some point, you have to question, like, well, if this isn't helping you, then, what can we do about it? What are we going to do to make it better?
Definitely. I mean, I know personally, I thank you very much for meeting with us every week and giving us that space to talk. But I'm more interested in you. So, of course, this time is difficult for all of us. But in what healthy coping ways would you say you've been dealing with COVID-19 and quarantining all the time?
The whole quarantining has had me really reflect a lot on a lot of stuff I've been repressing. So things that I didn't really deal with and kind of was keeping myself busy to avoid. But when everything stopped and I had to like really sit with my thoughts and like suddenly I had nothing to do but sit with my thoughts, it was hard. And I really struggled at the beginning because I was getting these insecurities that I hadn't had in a really long time. And for me, what has helped me a lot is a lot of the healing practices I've been learning from NCN since I started. And also just like having the space to talk to somebody. I started with talking to my partner more about what was happening. I started going to Círculo where I could talk to people about what was happening. But really admitting that this wasn't something I could just like forget about. Like I had to address these things and I had to actually like put myself first and put my healing first. And I hadn't really done that in a while because I thought everything was okay. But when COVID just made everything slow down, it all was just coming back. And I realized I hadn't been taking care of myself recently. And I really needed to put myself first for a bit because if I was not okay, then like everything else was not going to be okay either.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just say that I think that's one of the biggest important teachings is that we do have to take care of ourselves so that we could show up a little bit better for all our relationships, right? So I do want to commend you on that. One of the things that you did bring up right now was some of the medicine teachings that you learned. I know I've seen I've had the privilege of seeing some of the beautiful dream catchers and ojo de dioses that you made. Can you speak about what is the process of making the dream catchers? What do you get out of it? And then also, what can somebody else get out of, tapping into their medicine teachings coming from their culture?
Thank you for asking about that because I love talking about dream catchers. Um, so I learned about dream catchers through Joven Noble. I asked Ariel about it before, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we have this teaching about dream catchers. I can show you how to do them." And then I learned, and I found it to be really like almost like meditative for me. Just working on the dream catchers, it makes me feel like I'm at peace. Sometimes I'm stressed because I'm like, oh, I wanted to learn a certain way and it's not coming out how I want it to. But that it's like a good stress. Like I love the process of like working on them and everything. And all the dream catchers I've made have been for people that I know who have asked me for them or who I just really wanted to gift them a dream catcher. So when I work on them, it's really thinking about them. And I learned actually through NCN that when you make something for someone, as you're working on it, you send good thoughts, good healings, good vibrations. You send as much good spirit into it because you're gifting it to someone. You are giving that to them. And if you're putting negative thoughts, then it's going to affect them negatively. But if you're putting blessings and love and healing, like it's going to bring them healing as well. Especially with something like a dream catcher where it's capturing all the negativity and releasing good energy. It's very important to kind of give that blessing in the teaching. So for me, it's really connecting a lot with the person as well. So when I make it as a gift, it's me giving a part of myself to them. I'm putting a lot of myself into it, a lot of my time, my resources, my love. So when I give it to someone, it's with offering a piece of myself. And it's really become a way I show love to someone. And not a lot of people get dream catchers. I've found myself to be really busy recently in the last couple years, so I don't make them as often as I used to. But whenever I do get the chance to make them, it's become such a big joy for me. And sometimes even like when I am stressed, I sit down and I'm like, all right, I'm going to make a dream catcher. I don't know who I'm going to make it for, but let me think of someone real quick, like who I want to give love to. Maybe I'm stressed out about something and I'm like, okay, I've been thinking a lot about this person recently. Let me like whip them up something really quick. And it's gotten to the point where it used to take me hours to make one. And now I can like knock them out in 30 minutes. And even if it is just those 30 minutes, like it gives me so much peace. And I just feel ready for the rest of the week, the day, anything that's going on.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I could never do dream catchers. It's just so much precision that has to go into it that I would not have the patience for it. So that's amazing that you're able to do that so quickly in 30 minutes. Wow, I couldn't. So since we're talking about something that helps you, it's your medicine. We're going to talk more about the medicine in the community. So what specifically is going on in your community around healing that you would like to lift up?
Well, in San Jose, actually, California in general is going to start opening these new centers. They're called Alcove. And I was actually part of the youth advisory group that helped like establish that and everything. So it's new youth centers that it's going to be mental health services available to all youth for free. And it's going to be provided right now, the one that's opening up here in San Jose, and then there's another one in Palo Alto. And they should be opening up very soon. They were expected to open up in the summer, but COVID pushed a lot of that back. So I really want to lift that up because there is a bigger push in California for mental health services, especially for youth. There is a big need for youth to get these services because there's such a big depression, self-harm rate, suicide rate, and a lot of youth really need it. And just even providing the youth the space for the youth that's free. It's going to be youth focused. It's made by youth for youth. And the space is going to be really cool. Like, I was part of the youth advisory group that helped establish a lot of the, like, what it's going to look like. We decided, like, what the branding was going to be, the name, down to the egg chairs that are going to be in the offices. Like, I was part of that. So I think it's like a really big thing that's coming out, especially just the fact that it had a youth advisory group. A lot of organizations are pushing for youth advisory groups. And just seeing that there's all these organizations that want to invite youth, they want to have youth be at the forefront of the conversations when it comes to policies, when it comes to establishing things. Like, it's amazing. I am so excited to be part of this time where, like, youth are really going to be a big part of the changes that are happening in California and San Jose and the county. Like, youth are really going to be making a lot of these changes for the better. And I'm excited to see what that's going to be. It excites me that youth are going to be given that space that I think they have deserved for so long, but adults haven't really given them that opportunity to speak out. And now it's like, well, we see the value in youth voice, so let them say what they need to say, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And I think, we are definitely blessed to have great maestros and maestras. And I do want to mention a couple of them, like Maestra Susie, Maestra Deb, Theo Jerry, Theo Hector, that really talks about that if we really want intergenerational healing to happen, then we need to have all generations at the table, not just one. So I do think, that it's important. And it's also why we started, this component of the Healing Generation podcast as well, to make sure that we did have young folks speaking about healing and what they needed as well. So thinking about that, I know in past conversations, we've talked about how relationships are also important in our healing journey, to making sure that we're not feeling alone, to making sure that we're not isolated in this journey. Can you pinpoint maybe one person that has walked with you in your healing journey that you maybe want to give them a shout out? Maybe you want to lift up a teaching or a value that they've taught you?
Yo, don't feel pressure to say Ariel.
So I am going to say Ariel, but not... I was trying to find my right words. So I am going to say Ariel. And not just because you're here, not just because you're my older brother, not because you peer pressure me into stuff. But I really think that for me, my turning point in my healing journey, and it's still happening, like, my healing journey is not over, like, it's going to continue. But my big turning point was youth, like, bringing me to Joven Noble and bringing me to that first time you brought me to the McKinley Center. And you were like, I remember you and my mom and I, we were at the store, and my mom was telling you how esta chiquilla, like, she's got all this stuff going on, and, like, she doesn't, she needs friends. And you were like, well, we're having these field trips for my job, like, have her come with me. Like, we're going to Six Flags, we're going to San Jose State, we're going to all these places. And you were like, she can make friends there. So I remember you taking me to Sky High, and it introduced me to Joven Noble. And, like, I'm not going to lie, at first it was the cute boys that brought me back. But once I sat in circle, especially, like, the women's circle, like, it really, like, I realized I had, like, a lot going on, and I needed to deal with it. And I needed some form of, like, healing in me. Just even from that first time of being in circle, I was like, wow, like, this is nice. I love being able to talk with other people about what the heck is going on at home without feeling judged, without feeling like I have to put up a front. And you helped me with that. Like, you brought me to this, introduced me to this world, and I haven't looked back since. And a lot of what you've taught me is, being able to accept a lot of this stuff into my life. So, like, Joven Noble is, like, a big part of my life. Healing is a big part of my life, all because, like, you brought me into this. And you've helped me along the way. I didn't sit in circle specifically with you, but you helped me understand and unpack a lot of the teachings that maybe I didn't walk away, like, knowing fully. But just you and I in our discussions, like, we were able to talk more in depth and continue the conversation, and even continue it into our own home, and bringing it back to, like, my mom and dad, and using those teachings as, like, a way to, heal our own family with our own traumas.
That's amazing. I love that. Ariel's amazing.
He's okay.
So yeah, I know we've been talking about a lot in such around 20 minutes now. So this is just your water check. Make sure anyone who's watching is hydrating. Because I know people forget that. So go get some water real quick. But yeah, I want to ask you, since you brought up Círculo, what's your favorite part of either being in Círculo or teaching it to people? Like, what's your favorite specific like story or teaching that you've gotten from Círculo?
Círculo, I think specifically the teaching I took the most from was like the sexual health portion. So like the coyotazos, now the moon time, and all those teachings. It really sparked a big interest in me to learn more about all that. So later on, like when I went to college, like that's what I studied because I learned about all this stuff in Círculo. And then I became a sexual health advocate for like my campus and stuff because of Círculo. And I really credit that back to Círculo. And I even got a chance to go back before I started at NCN to just go and teach that portion of Circle, talking about sexual health and all that. Like it's like one of my biggest passions. And I love educating people on that. And just in general, because within that teaching, there is the whole teaching of like ideal mate and, healthy relationships. And that teaching has stuck with me so much. Like, it's something I've applied with my own family. The inlakech, like me and my partner call each other inlakech sometimes. It's like, it's just something I've really incorporated into my own life and really thinking about like the impact I make in my own relationships, with my relationship with my mom, with my dad, and even with my little brother. Like, I think a lot about the relationship me and my older brothers have and how I want to have something even stronger with my younger brother because, I'm basically his teacher. I'm one of his teachers. And really thinking about the inlakech and like healthy relationships and how I'm going to strengthen all of that with my own family.
No, definitely. Thank you for sharing it. And I think that's also just bringing me back to just the conversations that although they might have started in Círculo, they ended up making their way into the car drive home. And then they ended up making their way into our household, right? So the teachings definitely weren't isolated to just a circle. So thinking about that, me and you grew up in the same house, right? You're about 6 years younger than me. So when I was in high school, you were in elementary school. And when I was in college, you're just starting your high school career. So thinking about how we grew up in our house, is there one specific maybe trauma that impacted you as you were going through your high school journey and connecting the circle that you maybe want to speak about?
Yeah. So for me, I struggled a lot in high school specifically, and I know that carried over into you when you were in college. 'Cause it was around the same time, but right before I started high school, we had just lost my grandpa, and with that, we also lost the house we were living in. We had to move to the other side of town. I lost contact with a lot of my friends in the move. And on top of that, like my family, our parents were struggling financially. My mom had just had a really big surgery to remove her uterus. She had a tumor. She also had a tumor in her foot that had to be removed. And then on top of that, we were welcoming a new family member, my little brother, into the family. And our family was expanding. We had a second mom and all of us still living in the same household. Well, except you, because you were off in college. And it was crazy. Like thinking back on that, like it's crazy how much happened in the span of like a year and how much all that ended up affecting my time in high school, because with that, our parents struggled a lot financially. Their main focus was like having money to like have a roof over our heads and feed us. And we never had a day where we didn't have food. And I'm so grateful for that. But it ended up pushing a lot of like me to the side. I felt like I wasn't valued in our family for a bit because of all this that was going on. And it was partly because, my parents knew I was okay. They knew I was fine. I wasn't a troublemaker. I was really good in school. I had straight A's. I was fine. And, that's great. I felt like I couldn't act out because if I did, then it was going to make things worse. And I really saw it as as like I felt neglected. And I know I wasn't neglected. My family loved me and I had a lot of love. And I had a roof over my head and clothes and food and like, so I know I wasn't neglected in hindsight. But at the time, it really felt like, the world could go on without me. And I struggled a lot with that because of, my parents just focusing a lot on what they had at hand. And they did their best. And I love them for everything they did for us. But it was something that I struggled with a lot in high school. And it developed into me feeling like I wasn't enough in a lot of ways. And a lot of that went into like body image issues, an eating disorder, self-harm, things like that. And it's something I struggled with so much, but it's something that I've been able to heal from and have really worked towards like, bettering myself through Joven Noble, through other means, therapy and things like that.
That's truly a blessing. I'm very glad that you were able to persevere through everything you've been through. My question to you is, what got you through all that? What are some blessings that you would like to acknowledge through the pain? As you always say, you got to give a blessing with a baggage.
My biggest blessing is, I think, like, as much as maybe at the time I was feeling alone, I did have a really big support system. And, it was my family. My mom and my dad were there for me when they could be. My brothers were there for me. I had my friends in school. I had teachers who really supported me. At some point I realized that I needed a break from my family and school really became a big outlet for me. So like getting my grades to be at a point where like I could go to college somewhere else and, have that independence. And my teachers really, really supported me on that. Ariel really supported me in that too, like helping me with like college applications and all that. And I think just having that support system that even though I felt alone, looking back on it, like there were so many people there who were like helping me through it all.
Thank you for being willing to share all that stuff. I will say though, that if you're ever in a space where you don't think you're enough, I could reassure you that you're definitely enough. You've been an amazing sister, a little sister for me. You've been an amazing bigger sister for our little brother Chris, and I know you've been an amazing daughter for all three of our parents, right? Because we definitely do have a unique family structure. But thinking about that family structure and thinking about our little brother Chris, who is now 10 years old, me and you are getting an opportunity to see our dad really get a second chance at being a father again, right? And I'm thinking back maybe about a year ago. Because, when we were growing up, our dad never really struggled with alcoholism. He was never really struggled with substance abuse, but he did really struggle with anger and jealousy and just really being violent sometimes, right? So sometimes those elements can be very toxic at the home, and our little brother doesn't have to deal with that. A year ago, me and you decided to pull a prank on our little brother. We had him look into a water bottle, and I squeezed the water bottle, and the water went into his face. And I remember my dad getting angry at us. And my dad was saying, "What did you do to him? That could be considered bullying. That could be considered abuse. And do you know the impact of trauma on little kids?" And I'm sitting there really in my mind thinking the irony, right? The irony that the person that when I was younger was violent was now lecturing me about the impact of trauma. So really, getting to see my dad get a second chance at being a father and being an incredible father for my little bro, Chris, how has that experience been for you?
I think at first it was a little like, it kind of like angered me a little bit because I remember that day you're talking about when we pulled a prank on him and you and I like, talked after and it was like, what the heck? Like he's such a hypocrite. Like we grew up always being scared that he would be angry. And even now, like, I feel like sometimes I get scared to make him angry because he has struggled with with anger issues like our whole lives. And when that happened, I was like, what? Like, all of a sudden, you want to change your mind. And actually, my dad recently and I had this conversation too, where, I'm grateful that he doesn't have to go through that. that he gets to have a very like healthy relationship with our dad, because my dad's like been able to kind of realize a lot of the mistakes he made with us. And, you know, I'm grateful that my brother is able to go to him and like receive support in that way, rather than like my dad being angry about like little things. And that even goes in terms of like money. Like, I know we struggled a lot financially, and it was actually kind of bled into when he was a baby as well. But as far as he remembers, we've been fine financially. And my dad's been able to provide things for him that like he wasn't really able for us, or that he did, but like they struggled a little bit more. And my dad and I actually had this conversation a couple of days ago where I was like, you know, it can be seen as he's spoiled, but I'm so grateful he doesn't have to know like necesidad. Like he doesn't have to know like not being able to not have something. And that our family's at that point right now where they can provide like something better for him. And that, you know, you and I and even our older brother Omar are able to provide things for him that our family wasn't able to before. And we can help him so much. Like I'm not looking forward to like when he goes to like high school, like how much we can help him in high school and when he applies to colleges, things like that. Like we're going to be able to support him in his future. And we didn't have that. I'm really happy and grateful for that.
You're such an amazing person. You've gone through so much and at such a young age, and you're still very young now, and you just have so much wisdom. And if you would like to give advice to the next generation to help them overcome their struggles and support them through what they're going through on their healing journey, what would you like to say?
I'd like to say that everything gets better. It really does get better. It's not the end of your journey. There is still so much more that there is to live for. And even if right now it seems like everything is just going bad and people around you aren't supporting you, there are people out there who care about you and who think you are sacred and who are willing to help you in your sacred journey. Reconnecting with yourself and finding those people who do care about you it's hard. But once you have it, it's something that it's so hard to explain, but it's something that's so valuable and really it's a blessing.
Thank you for that. And I think, you know, AB did a great job too of thinking about the next generation and thinking about our little ones because they're always watching. They might annoy us a lot, but they do that because they love us and they look up to us. So I think that's important. Now, the second additional thing, I think what's also important is the people that came before us, right? We always talk about our elders that we love a lot. We talk about our ancestors that we might not necessarily have known, but we might recognize through pictures, through stories, through values. Can you speak about maybe some of your elders who are now transitioning to ancestors that loved on you, that cared for you, that maybe prayed for you when you didn't know they were praying for you?
I value a lot our grandparents. My Mama Cruz and Papa Chispas, like growing up, they were our second parents. My Mama Cruz really took care of us when my mom was working her 2 to 3 jobs, when my dad was also working and doing whatever else he was doing on the side. My Mama Cruz was really who raised us for a big portion of our childhood. And she has taught us so much. She's taught me so much. And I really think back on a lot of the teachings she gave us. She was really religious and a lot of them kind of went back to the Bible. But even then, like they were so spiritual, like without even knowing it. Like I learned so much about, you know, incense and about cleansing and how to do the persino with the egg so that you can like clean yourself and everything like that. And even though she passed away when I was really young, like I still carry a lot of her in me. And I know like she's still taking care of me because she comes to me in my dreams, and that's a whole nother conversation. But I know she's still cheering me on, as well as my grandpa. You know, he passed away a few years after her, and I got to enjoy him a little bit longer. But he also just like taught me so much about how to be a hard worker and being able to provide for your family, but also be like really nurturing. Like he wasn't super nurturing to, like, I know my mom and her sisters, but she was really nurturing to all his grandkids. And he was so loving, and he really did a lot for us. So I do miss him a lot, and I think about him a lot too. But he also comes to me in my dreams, so it's okay. And then I know my grandparents from my dad's side, like I really, they live in Mexico, but with the times that they've come to visit or that I've got to go visit them, like my grandma is the one who taught me how to embroider, which is what I put in a lot of embroidery into my dream catchers. So I attribute a lot of that to her. And my grandpa too, like he is a angry little man, but man, he can work hard. So I really do attribute a lot of the teachings I've gotten from them. And I think about them a lot. And I know they think about me. So I feel blessed.
Thank you for sharing that. No, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of the time we always have a lot of people telling us how loved we are and how sacred we are and how we're beautiful butterflies. But a lot of the time it's hard to believe that when we're going through so much ourselves. So my question for you is, when did you realize you were truly loved and you were sacred?
I think I've always felt a sense of like my family loves me. Like obviously, like I know they love me. They have to. But I don't think I felt well, truly like I was sacred until I started doing the like Joven Nobles Círculos and considering like seeing the value in myself and like really acknowledging that, you know, like I am good enough and I will always be good enough. But I didn't really feel that until probably like I went off to college because my mom really showed me how much she missed me once I left, which it it came with like little things. Like she learned how to text. Like she would not text before. She learned how to text, so we could have conversations. And it took me also kind of recognizing what her form of showing love is. You know, for a long time I expected it to be a certain way, but realizing that, you know, her form of love isn't telling me like, oh, I love you. It's giving me food whenever I would go visit. It's you know, fixing my shirt when it's like all messed up. Like I used to think, oh, she's just criticizing me. Se está criticando. But no, it's like her showing me like, oh, I'm taking care of you. And I think once I started really noticing a lot of that stuff and recognizing how my family shows love, I really felt like, wow, I'm loved. I'm sacred. I have so many blessings in my life, such a big family, and they all show their love in so many different ways. And knowing that I can like go to any of them for anything is just like, it's crazy to me. Like we literally have like probably like 100 cousins because, you know, my mom's like one of 12 sisters and my dad's like one of 11. And like, it's crazy how big the family is, but really feeling that love has been crazy.
Definitely, I will definitely confirm that we do come from a big family, and depending who you ask, some say that mom is one of 11 or she's one of 15, one of 18. The number ever it's always changing. So at this point, I can't even keep track. But I do want to commend you for that. I think you know the way that AB really framed that question. It's important. Sometimes other people see the sacredness in us before we could recognize it ourselves. And I think, you know, I've even struggled with that even growing up. So I appreciate you being willing to speak about that. But as we close up, is there any closing remarks, any last minute words, or last minute teachings that you want to share with our listeners today? Whether it's one of our elders that might be listening in, whether one of our yelders, our young elders that are, you know, deep in the trenches of the work, or the next generation that's coming up. Do you have any closing remarks for them?
I really want to say that it does take a village. Like, there's a lot of people I'm connected to that have helped me get to where I am today and who will continue to help me and who I would like to support as well. And every person I've encountered, like, I've taken something out of our conversations and, you know, I have tried to find ways to apply it in my own life. And I think it really takes like recognizing that there are people around you who care about you and who think you're sacred and you're not in it alone. Like as lonely as sometimes it can feel, you're never alone. There's always someone here to support you in everything. So I do want to say that, like, don't ever feel like you're in this by yourself.
Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for being just so honest and vulnerable with all your answers. I think it's really important that we have talks like this where we could get vulnerable so people know that they're not going through stuff alone, that we know their pain. And if you're able to get through it and you're still smiling today, that beautiful smile, I feel like we all got this. So yeah, I just really want to thank you. I really appreciate you for being here, and I want to thank everyone who listened to us. Because y'all should be thanking Xitlali because she just gave y'all an amazing podcast to listen to. But yeah, I'm very thankful for everyone listening to us and taking time from your day to listen to us.
Thank you, AB, for that. And I do, in closing, I just want to commend both of our young warriors that showed up today. AB continues to be a warrior that impacts, their community in so many different ways. So I do want to commend you for that. And Xitlali, my younger sister, who's always going to be my baby sister, it's great to sit in circle with you. It's great to heal with you. And I think just as a reminder for everybody on here, have these conversations with your relatives. Have these conversations with your younger siblings, your older siblings, and even when you get comfortable enough, have these conversations with your parents, because you're going to be really shocked at what it is that you learn about each other. So I do want to set that as a reminder. And then also, what we're sharing about our parents, specifically about my dad, it served as a reminder that we can still heal backwards. There's some things that, he will apologize to us for that he will never have to apologize to my little brother for. So as we, develop healing for our communities, as my mentor, Mario Suna, Sanchez reminds me, our community starts at home. And it's important that we have these conversations, that we heal together, not only out in the community, but inside within our home as well. So with that, we hope everybody has a great remainder of their week. Thank you for tuning in. Again, you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, and please stay connected. Find a circle that is healing for you and make sure that you connect to those teachings so that you can pass it on to the next generation. So thank you to everybody for listening to us today.
I just want to say thank you for having me on this podcast. I really commend NCN and Healing Generations Institute for seeing the value in these conversations. I think especially just having youth be a part of it. And I really express the importance of learning through storytelling. Our family is really big storytellers, and there is a lot to learn through storytelling. So I definitely think that having these conversations, as hard as they may be, there is value to them. And it's really important to get whatever lessons you got to get out of it, But yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate you both. You're amazing people.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.